Welcome to Happily Ever Aftermath, the podcast that explores the movies that influenced how we view love and romantic relationships. Yes, there will be spoilers. I'm your host, Diana Rojek Skonnord. The football team at my high school, they were tough. After they sacked the quarterback, they went after his family. We're talking about Back to School 1986. And I have Ryan here with me. Thank you. Hi, Ryan.
Hi. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah. So this is my pick. I was kind of bouncing off the walls trying to figure out the right movie. And there is no right movie after you've been doing this for, 4+ years.
Yeah, I was pitching things, and some of them were heavier material than this.
Yeah. And that will be saved for a later point in time. So
I'm sure we'll get to it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need to watch an 80s comedy, right?
I mean, an 80s comedy that's like less than an hour 45.
Definitely the most salient feature for you is the runtime. Right?
Well, I was really tired. But I will say that this was definitely a movie I watched a lot when I was younger, so much so that some of the stuff it's amazing how much the names have left me, but some of the quotes remain the same.
Yeah, this was my first time seeing it.
Yes.
Although I feel like I've known about the movie forever and probably read the IMDb quotes page back when IMDb was a novelty. So I feel like I have an oddly pre-existing familiarity with the characters and a few of the best gags.
Sure.
The Kurt Vonnegut thing, definitely. I've heard of that one.
Right. So hold on one second. For those of you who aren't too familiar, Back to School, if I didn't say it before, 1986, it is a Rodney Dangerfield movie, which we should comment on a little bit later on. But I want to say about Back to School from IMDb: to help his discouraged son get through college, a fun-loving and obnoxious rich businessman decides to enter the school as a student himself. Interesting, because I didn't read obnoxious before. I got to as far as to help his discouraged son get through college. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know about obnoxious. I would call him lovably boorish.
What does boorish mean?
Kind of uncultured, rough around the edges.
Well, see, it's unfair because he's obnoxious to the quote unquote villains of this particular movie, but he's
He's nice to all the sympathetic characters. He's generous, He
wants
all the students to party with him.
I mean, in a specific conflict with his own son, he's not necessarily nice to his son because he was only looking out for himself, but he got caught up in college. Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to describe this character, if you've seen Caddyshack, there's a lot of overlap there. The sort of nouveau riche guy who rubs all the stuffed shirts the wrong way, but he's a party animal, and all the working class people are around love him, and he throws money around and such.
In fact, there is a scene where one of the workers who got the dorm room set up for him, it's like, what you got, Mr. Mellon? You got class. and sure enough, his response back to him is like, oh, it must have rubbed off on you or from you. I don't know. He's the one who can do the one-liners. I'm just going, huh. And okay, so important note for me and my brain and how I kind of make note of all these people. Rodney Dangerfield is the star of this. And so it is a vehicle for him and the rest of the cast. So Sally Kellerman plays Diane, or Dr. Is she Dr. Turner? Professor Turner? She is his love interest. People might know her best from MASH.
I assume you could call her professor, unless she's just like a tenured lecturer or something.
I don't know the specifics, but they're there for almost everything. So
you can just call her Diane, unless that's going to get confusing.
Nah, I'm already confused. Okay. So his son is played by Keith Gordon, and Terry Farrell is his love interest. Special shout out to Burt Young, Paxton Whitehead, Emmet Walsh, and Adrienne Barbeau, Ned Beatty. This cast just keeps going, and it's kind of amazing. I felt like I couldn't stop. But Sam Kinison, as noted, we'll get back to that whole remembering certain scenes.
Yes.
And I want to point out that who was really, really big in the 80s, but just kind of faltered and catapulted back in the 2000s. Mm-hmm. William Zabka.
Of course.
Oh, and I guess Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. is also in this movie. Yes.
Yeah. But
yeah, you should watch Cobra Kai. It's good. I'm going to make Diana watch it sooner or later.
And extra special shout out to Oingo Boingo and Kurt Vonnegut.
Right. Yeah. Appearing as themselves.
Yeah.
And scored very conspicuously by Danny Elfman.
And I thought that was really cool. I'm just like, no wonder I like the music to this movie so much.
Maybe we should fill in for everyone who's not up to speed with the trivia, but Danny Elfman, the noted Hollywood and TV composer, is also like the frontman, I guess, for the band Oingo Boingo.
Yeah, I still like that song, Dead Man's Party.
Oh yeah, it's terrific.
Yeah, but I like the beginning music of this movie too. Not exactly the beginning, but I'm just like, oh, it's about to start, and then it didn't start, and then it eventually started. I'm like, oh yeah, I like this song.
And you realized you were I got momentarily confused with Trading Places.
Yeah, I was waiting for some classical thing to get started. I'm like, why is this not? Oh, this isn't it. But I like this too.
Will we ever do Trading Places on this podcast?
I'll have to think about it.
Okay.
Because
New Year's will be here before you know it.
That's good times right there. Thank you, that movie, for helping me understand. Wait, no. I'm not about to thank the housing crisis, but the housing crisis is the reason I now understand what happened in Trading Places. But I still will need a refresher if I'm ever to explain it to anybody.
Was it a movie that shaped your views on the commodities market as you were growing up?
I do love pork bellies. This is about back to school. This is not about Trading Places. So
we are not here to learn. We're here for back to school.
We're here. Well, this is back to school. How dare you? So again, my pick. This particular movie, I want to say I recorded it off of TBS, but I still remember all the commercial breaks, and I was able to really pinpoint like the scene where he's in the lab doing the experiment with the monkeys, learning to read. That was cut out.
Interesting.
Yes, and lots of words that don't need to be cut out were cut out.
Why would that scene be cut out? I'm trying to remember.
Probably for time.
Just for time? Okay.
Yeah.
It was a little weak.
Well, there is that. No, if I had to take a guess, it's for time.
Made him seem a little bit more like a jerk than the rest of the antics.
1:36, and they had to probably cut it down to 1:20 something.
I'm guessing the gratuitous woman in the shower scene was also just gone from the TV.
I also am wondering if did I get this recorded off of TBS, or did I just watch it a lot and then I would also cut in after he already got accepted in there? Because I don't have very many memories of the dean being snooty, always being a sycophant.
Yeah, was the dean ever snooty at all, or
no?
No, yeah, I was just... Yeah,
no, in the beginning.
In the beginning?
In the beginning.
Oh, like before the...
Before the check.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, when he's...
If I may point out, it was a really big check. No. He was... In my memory, he was almost never snooty because he was always just like...
Well, I think that was the majority of the film. Like, yes. He's only, trying to keep Rodney's character out of the college for, not even 2 full minutes, and then
right,
once the check's in his hand, he just never stops fawning over him and trying to cover for him.
And as an adult, I had to really think about how big was that check, because it was an entire building for the business school.
Yeah, at minimum of full structure. It was like the school was named after him, so I don't know if that means that he's also paying to establish a whole new arm of the college with its own faculty and stuff. But even if he's merely paying for the construction, which in the economics class he's talking all construction seems to be one of his areas of expertise, so maybe it was just the building. But
that's what I think is amazing, is how much he is just on top of business and when he's doing all of his homework,
right
and delegating.
Yeah, so the sort of conceit of this character is that he is a wildly successful but uneducated businessman, and his son kind of thinks he can follow in his footsteps, but he wants, even though he never went to college, he wants to, encourage the kid to do it the more conventional way, and which is good because, you can never guarantee that you replicate that kind of success. I imagine realistically it would have been largely a right place, right time kind of thing, no matter how knowledgeable he is about, the practice of business.
Right. And it's kind of hard to tell because it's he goes from young to successful in a great musical montage of photos, one of them being from Caddyshack. Right.
Yeah, and definitely giving the audience the impression that he worked very hard and he has a lot of natural talent. But probably also some residual feeling that, I won't sit here and speculate whether he wished he had gone to college, but he very clearly wanted that for his son. So
what's interesting about this is that, really paying attention to it, I have a relative who I think has the same insecurity. Here's the thing though. My relative has an insecurity of the education that received. And then, of course, very, 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 very proud when their kids got their college education. But I wouldn't say that Thornton Mellon is insecure.
About anything, really.
Yeah, which is actually kind of amazing. Except for when he's about to actually fail. In which case, I thought that was kind of interesting. That he was running away from it. The thing is, he could afford to run away from it, so that's why it's even more interesting.
He was also very reluctant to enter the diving competition, but that's very reasonable given his age. And
but at the same time, it felt a lot like if you listen to our Tommy Boy episode, there's a scene where Tommy's dad is calling him up, just like, Tommy, come on up here. Oh, no. Okay. That's what it felt like. But I really enjoyed reading the trivia on this movie because it turns out, and I could kind of tell, apparently Rodney Dangerfield did do some diving when he was younger in real life. Knew? He did.
Well, sure.
And apparently got written in. Well, we didn't, right? But the thing is that when he was swimming in the pool in the beginning, I'm just like, he looks like a good swimmer, though. Even though he's like, supposed to be schlubby and tall and fat and all that other stuff, it's just like, he still looks like he's a really good swimmer. That's really interesting to me. And they purposely put that in the movie so you can see that he was a good swimmer.
Yeah, no, they established it well.
Yeah.
And it was convincing.
Yeah, which I think is, it was because it was him.
Yeah.
Not the diving, but the swimming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't claim to know a ton about this, but I think there are a lot of people who maybe don't look that athletic, but they can excel at swimming because, it's just like, if like you have a certain build and weight that kind of affects buoyancy, and it's just about limb strength. So
yeah, I have none of that. Okay. Okay. So a few things to point out. I mean, there's two romantic relationships going on at the same time, and when I was younger, I was more interested in the younger couple because Rodney Dangerfield funny, and then like I will eventually be closer to age for those people. I don't know what it is for the younger people, so it's just like, I always considered Jason the son to be like the awkward shy guy, and for some reason I made him smart too, and it might have been that tiny conversation about astronomy and how he's able to ramble on about astronomy things. I don't know what they were talking about.
Yeah, it sounded like some kind of astrophysics principle, like the math side of astronomy.
Help me out here.
Okay.
How old do you think that they were?
The characters?
The characters, yeah.
College freshmen, typically that would put them at about 18 or 19, right?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, though, because, 18, 19, they were drinking in the bar.
Right.
And so I'm trying to figure out, I don't think they were bribed that much. So I thought maybe they were freshmen.
Do we see them get carded, or?
They did in the beginning when they walked in.
Oh, yeah.
Unless it was one of those things where just okay, you can come in, but you can't drink, and they put a wristband on you. Which I did not see, but that is something that I went with.
That is a thing that can happen.
Yes. So I'm trying to figure...
Do we see them getting served alcohol?
I see them drinking alcohol.
Right.
But there's a lot of things happening in there that's just can't tell.
This whole movie takes place in a rather lawless environment, so I wouldn't even necessarily say them being served at a bar would preclude them being under 21.
So you mean to tell me that the police bringing beer to that dorm party was lawless?
I think there are typically some regulations about doing that in uniform, and we have to have a serious conversation about academic misconduct by several parties.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll be getting to that.
So my notes are minimal, but that's definitely in my head notes. Yeah, I mean, don't date your students.
Yeah.
Even if they are age appropriate?
It was a sweet story, but Dr. Turner needs to be fired. I'm just saying.
I don't want to make the... I mean, let's talk a minute about her and Philip for a minute.
Okay, so Philip is her boyfriend, but
the stuffy...
not like a really committed boyfriend.
That's one of those things that I couldn't really tell. It's just they're in a relationship, but he uses words like incorporate.
Yeah, it seemed very asymmetric. I think at one point he gave her the world's least romantic marriage proposal, and she didn't even really seem to be agreeing to date him exclusively.
Yes.
Because she it went on a date with Thornton and did not even act like it was a big deal or an act of infidelity, and she was still hanging out with Philip afterwards. So
She just wanted to have fun. She at least was
said as much, yeah.
She did not lie to Philip at all. And it's
she wasn't leading him on at all. I think Philip was just sort of kind of delusional about the nature of the relationship. So
right, and so I'm not even sure where to begin. And actually, that's probably the whole end right there.
Okay.
It's just, I think when I was younger, I didn't even think like she was cheating on him or anything like that. Except these types of movies are structured in the stuffy boyfriend or the boring boyfriend or the horrible for them boyfriend, and either they know it or they don't know it. But, she's pretty straightforward, which I really appreciate about her. And also, like, even when she's like, doing the first day of class with her students, she's just like waking everybody up by, reading something pretty, Diana Blushy when she was watching when she was younger.
Sure.
But it's okay, they're in college.
Yeah, that was just like a barrage of like unrealistic first days of class. Like no one like talks about a syllabus. Like every professor was like, well, let's just dive right in. It's like, okay, you're supposed to like, say when the midterms are and what kind of books you're supposed to buy. And
actually, I'm trying to remember because, oh my God, it's been so long, but it's just like, where did I have the book before? I don't know if you necessarily bought the book before the first day of class because it's just like, oh, what if I drop?
Yeah, exactly. Like the way the way registration worked at my college, I wasn't even that sure I was going to still be in the class until like week number 2. So,
Did you ever register in person where you had to give a piece of paper and stand in line for a class?
Oh, that blew my mind. No, I mean, I I went to college, as did you, in sort of an interim period where they had all online registration, but it was like really clunky and had a bunch of like really ridiculous rules about when you could do what. And
didn't you have to do it by phone?
It was basically like a telephone version that got transferred very awkwardly onto a website, and a lot of the same rules for like not letting the phone system get overwhelmed, or they would give you these like 2-hour windows where you're allowed to sign on and register. That got carried over to the website. So it was like, it was like the least convenient online registration system you could imagine. And I was just watching in the movie all of those students standing in line in like some kind of big ballroom type or gymnasium, I don't know, a big empty room, and just thinking like, that looks approximately like an IRL version of what I had to go through. It was probably like a similar level of uncertainty and inconvenience.
I filled out a piece of paper and I handed the slip to them during my time frame.
Uh-huh.
And then I registered, and then they told me, okay, you got your classes. And they gave me a classic, like, printout.
Uh-huh.
I'm fairly certain they had to tear off the 2 sides because of the feeding paper.
I had like a maximum number of logins for this stupid website. It was like, don't try to log in more than 4 times or you'll get locked out until after the first registration period. So like, plan ahead and make sure you know everything that you need to register for and do it all in one batch. And if you don't, you're just screwed. It was just, it made the whole thing like something that you don't need any extra encouragement to overthink, and it's just like giving you extra reasons to overthink it. And
I mean, we did.
Yeah.
Hard enough picking your classes. But the point is...
And you were very supportive, as I was a nervous wreck in those days. You can go back and see our Born Identity episode for more details.
So, those were the relationships. I wasn't really paying attention to, the older couple. This is like Much Ado About Nothing, where it's just like, I was focused on the younger couple when I was younger. And now that I'm older, I'm just like, ooh, she should not be dating him.
So not, you're not appreciating it more. You're just kind of judging it more.
Well, in terms of like, what did you say? Academic misconduct?
Yeah.
I mean, I do appreciate that she knew him well enough to know you did not write this paper.
Right.
Good yag.
And she doesn't like refer him for academic discipline right away because it's not that big. Or maybe that's just one of those movie universe things.
She's not mad, honey. She's just disappointed.
Sure. And she did give him an F on the paper,
which
is like, maybe I'm being too hard on the movie. Maybe just like in movie world, like that is the consequence for cheating. And they don't have to go, oh, well, in real life, he would have been referred to the dean right away.
Right. But here's my question for you. This is something that I did notice. Was there any reconciliation? Because I noticed this time around, she got mad at him. Mm-hmm. He did the paper thing. He is being threatened to be expelled. And then all of a sudden it smashes into the montage where he's studying and she's helping him.
Right.
But where was the reconciliation?
So is it, I mean, yeah, I kind of feel like it was what I said a moment ago. The fact that, like, you know, she gets this fraudulent paper, she gives him an F on the paper, and then and expresses her disappointment, and that's it. The F is the consequence. The F is the punishment. And after that, it's just like a done deal. They move on. Like, is that kind of...
Well, I was actually thinking, she is a very easygoing person.
Yeah.
So then again, you know, hey, I've said my piece. And she seemed disappointed when she found him in the hot tub. But at the same time, it's just like... Yeah, right. It goes both ways. Like, we didn't say anything. I'm disappointed, but I left. And then
that's true. It looked like she found it a little off-putting. I think there was a throwaway line after that, something about like his emotional maturity and the fact that he's like hanging out with these girls in bikinis. Because, like, I mean, he wasn't doing anything untoward with them other than just sitting in the hot tub, you know, like visibly flirting. But that's not like, you know, he wasn't in flagrante delicto or anything.
You're right, but at the same time, though, like his flirting, though, this is clearly 1980s Rodney Dangerfield style, just like one-liners where it's just like he says these things that are just horrifically inappropriate, and it's just I'm like, yeah, you're being paid to do that. Like, I'm sorry if I'm
horrifically inappropriate. Like what?
Hold on, I'm trying to remember. You too, I'd like to tame your shrew.
Oh, interesting.
Not in the, that wasn't in the hot tub. That was in the bookstore. Hey, everyone, it's on me. Shakespeare for everybody. Right. Oh, and also when he walks into that sorority and he goes in, he's like, I'm sorry, you know, I didn't see anything. And then he does a rip you're perfect. And then goes back. And
yeah, that was just, that was, like I said, 80s comedy.
As I was flipping through the IMDb, you also might like Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that was... Yeah, Revenge of the Nerds was beyond the pale. I'm not going to say like that. I'm not saying this movie was like...
No, I'm just saying college.
In decent taste or anything. But it does fascinate me that like... That you know, these like R-rated comedies used to sort of be that way back before, you know, studios wised up and so like, oh, you know, teenagers have a lot of money, we got to widen the appeal for these. Back then it's like, do we expect kids to be attending this movie? No. Okay, well, like throw in a nude scene, you know, give the guys in the audience a little more for their ticket price, you know. Or
for the record, this is PG-13.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like I said, different time.
1986. But I if I didn't before, I want to point it out again. You know, I'm talking about how this is putting Rodney Dangerfield in this movie, and it's just like, you know, stand here and say your lines. But like Harold Ramis has some producer credit and a little bit of writing credit as well, so it's a little bit smoother than other things where it's just like, hey, person who's ordinarily a stand-up comic or a TV talk show host or a blank, you know, I'm talking like the Jerry Springers and like the, you know, Ellen DeGeneres, where they're just like, good, now stand here, say your lines, and then do this thing. It really felt like how I felt when we did When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know what it is. And I know that movie is supposed to be considered a classic and a wonderful romantic comedy. But for me, it was just like, all right, Billy Crystal, stand there and say a thing and go.
Well, yeah, I mean, you used the word vehicle to describe this movie earlier, and it is definitely that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a good vehicle. It plays to Rodney Dangerfield's strengths.
It's a 1980s limo.
Sure, yeah.
Which was just pretty great. Yeah, well, I think that's why I liked it as much as I did. This really made me laugh when I was younger. Just the whole thing about, like, the craftiness of him. And he's just like, okay, it's one thing when he's bribing people and it's interesting, and then he's handing out pens and doing all this other stuff. But it's another thing where he's just like, you know, oh God, all these kids registering. You want me to move some people around? No. This is college. I have an idea. And I do appreciate that there, in some instances, I'll buy a building to get myself in. And the other side of it is just like, no. Yeah, you know, the big Bruce Springsteen sign, and all of a sudden everyone rushes out, come on, let's register. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny.
that if I wanted to climb up on my academic high horse here, I could say, yeah, it's the classic trickster archetype, as seen in folklore and so forth. You know,
examples.
Dang it, Diana.
I'm intrigued and I wish to know more.
Well, you know, I mean,
all right, I lost interest. Are we talking like Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Puck. And
I win.
Yeah, I'm dredging up knowledge from some comparative literature class or another from my own college days. I wish I had more examples at the ready, but I didn't really come prepared to get into this topic. But,
it is kind of amazing how much this is throwing us back into our college days.
Oh, it gave me flashbacks. I know, like the scene at the end where it's like you have to. You've gone the entire semester without doing any of the work, and you have to cram like
everything.
Crazy for a do or die test. And I swear I had a nightmare about that exact thing earlier this week before we even watched the movie.
Yeah. But
and I understand people have that dream even if it never actually happened to them in real life.
But I wonder if they had that dream because they saw it in this movie.
Maybe.
Okay. But here's my question, though.
Yes.
You saw the dean, you saw his teachers, but the thing is that you're aware of 3 of his classes. So Dr. Turner, Dr.
Right.
Sam Kinison, Dr. Phillip.
Yeah. Okay, so that's like English literature, contemporary American history, and
business
economics.
Economics, yeah. So that's 3 classes. There were like 8 teachers there. So I'm just they're just like, I'd like to thank Mr. Mellon's professors for being here. And I'm like, who are the other people?
That would be a big course load. I was used to taking like 4 like full weight classes during a semester, or maybe like 3 plus a couple of seminars.
Right. So. And so I'm just watching, I'm just like, wait a minute, there's no way he has this many no.
Maybe they were TAs.
I was thinking maybe they were TAs, or maybe he signed up for that many classes.
That would explain a lot, actually.
It really was. And so lots of stuff that just didn't really process. And I would be remiss without mentioning, because I love talking about the full villain canon of actors. More specifically, if you check out my Everything I Learned from Movies Castaway appearance for a King Arthur movie.
Nice plug.
Thank you very much. I did definitely get me some William Zabka in my casting, and it's because I very much appreciate that there he is once again, being a douche nozzle. And he does it so well, and it was very refreshing to read the trivia saying that he was trying really, really hard to be kind of funny and interesting, and they're just like, can you do it more like you did in The Karate Kid? And that's when he realized he was about to be typecast.
It's such a tragedy that that Robert Downey Jr. was already like taking up all the space for like the quirky supporting character.
Yeah, that was
in another world. Maybe he would have been
fascinating.
That was
fascinating to watch that. And it's just like, yep, Robert Downey Jr. being I don't know what
all sorts of stuff. Really,
yeah, it's kind of hard to.
Was
tell.
it like the gag where he's like the like outgoing college nerd who's always trying to find himself, and he goes through like 10 different kind of personas in the course of the movie kind of thing?
It's like the same persona, but just like blah blah blah, referring to college as bourgeois.
Yeah, it's all not like totally changing his personality where like he's all radical left wing at one point or whatever, but it like he just kind of changes his obsessions, right?
Hold on, let me see if I can still
definitely changes his look.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I got the Latin. And I got the Sanskrit. But they canceled ancient Greece. That totally blew my whole dead languages motif. Might have gotten the languages wrong, but I don't care. It came back to me when I was watching it. I'm like, dead languages motif.
When you don't have a major or a concentration or you're studying, just a motif.
Or when you're a freshman and you're still, again, how old are they?
Right.
But here's the situation, and this is what I'm trying to figure out. So Valerie, which I think she did very well considering how little she had to work with, and
Yeah, so Valerie, the younger love interest,
yes,
Jason's
love interest. He's clearly obsessed with her and talks about it like from the beginning. So it's just like it's pretty straightforward, but God, they don't talk very much.
Yeah, not a lot of interaction there. I was kind of wondering where we were going to go with that during like the relationship breakdown.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it depends on which relationship you want to talk about.
I was kind of assuming we would do both.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
But
we should figure this stuff out beforehand.
Shut up. Shut up. No peek behind the curtain. This is all professional. See?
Well, I'm the nominal producer here.
Hang on, my professional notes. Some good Foley right there, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's true. She has paper.
I love paper. It's how I registered for my first set of classes.
I have my brain.
I have no brain. I think, again, it was just, she was pretty.
She was pretty.
She was very pretty, and she was
charming.
She was very earnest.
Yes.
And she was definitely, targeted by our villain, Chaz. His name is Chaz. And I need to give a minute to appreciate the mullet. And the minute is over. And he kept playing with it too. He's just like flipping it back the whole time, and I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, that was a full 80s mullet, an uncompromised, a mole, if you will.
What?
A mole.
Oh.
Not just a mullet.
Okay,
like
yeah,
mole.
I got there eventually.
Okay.
Sorry, I was still thinking about it. Okay. Yeah, and again, another opportunity where there's just like so much going on because you've got the main plot, and then you've got Jason's plot, and then you have his, antagonist working as well. So, but also the antagonist is just like his father at the same time, because it's like, you've come into my world, and now it's just like, I believe one of the lines he did was like, I was so much happier when I was miserable.
Yeah.
Which is not bad.
Yeah, so I think you're making a good point. The antagonists, Philip and Chaz, are sort of like there for the sake of form, but the main like actual tension in the movie is between Jason and Thornton, right? It's yeah, which is kind of refreshing, and it gives this movie a little something that maybe the typical college hijinks thing doesn't have. That it really is about tension between these two men, the father and son, who really love each other, but they're not getting along in spite of that,
and of course there are opportunities for the individuals to use that against them, like Chaz basically implies to Jason that the only reason he got on the team was because he was bribed his way on,
which Jason is all too ready to believe under the circumstances.
Well, why wouldn't he, considering how much his dad is flashing money everywhere? He bribed his way to get into
definitely not above bribery. Yeah.
He's not. Well, I mean, he announces it blatantly in the business class.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, don't forget to don't forget to put in your calculations,
to grease the palms of all the
local authorities.
Yeah.
And ain't the Boy Scouts. Well, that was a different line back then. So yeah, so and I love this. There's actually the two stereotypes of the other boyfriend or the other relationship thing, where it's just like, you've got the stuffy that's not quite right, and then you've got the possessive asshole who's also not quite right, but she didn't seem all that interested in him.
Yeah, in fact, that it kind of mirrored what we were talking about with the Diane and Philip relationship, where Valerie seems kind of like open to entering into
flattered by the attention,
maybe willing to reciprocate it, maybe not necessarily in like a fully committed relationship with Chaz. Doesn't really come across as like any kind of infidelity or. And
one of the things that I think speaks well to the character, to the young me, and I still think of it now, is hey, we're having a party, oh, I have a date, oh, hey, I'll bring him along. Right. Just immediately, and I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out like the nice guy. Like I'm trying not to pin Jason as just like the angry nice guy.
Sure.
Because it's very easy. I work in tropes and stereotypes, okay?
Okay.
So it's very easy for me to just like, boom, and then you're done. But
well, this not to deprecate this movie, but it is I think you'll be fine with your tropes and stereotypes. It is kind of built out of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Montage.
Yeah, there were definitely montages.
Yeah. No, I was actually going to say, let's have one right now.
Go for it.
Okay. Jason and Valerie actually exchange I love yous.
They did.
Didn't feel right.
Well, our work here is done.
Okay.
No, yeah, I agree. I think that was not to like look down from my 30-something ivory tower. I was like, you don't know what a real relationship is, but yeah, no, that is.
It felt very abrupt for the timing, because he was only talking to her recently.
Yeah, it's like puppy love at best.
Ooh, but here's the question. Was this a semester or a quarter? Because whatever it was some term from beginning to end.
I think the main action of the movie took place in... okay, so either way, it was one term.
Yes.
We're clear on that, but what was the length of the term?
Yes, that's what I'm asking. Was it a semester or a quarter? Because was it 10 weeks or was it...
Could be a trimester.
No.
No? Okay.
No. It's my podcast. There's no trimesters. In school.
Sure.
Yes.
Wait, wasn't your college on a trimester, or were you on a quarter system?
I was on a quarter system.
Okay, sure. think my high school was on a trimester.
The point is, short period of time.
Yeah.
Unless she was pining for him long before she met him too.
Pining would seem like a stretch, but
or did she really, really fall for him when he let her? Well,
she seemed charmed by him from kind of the beginning. Their introduction at the
picking up the books,
at the registration,
letting her
riot.
cut in line,
Yeah.
standing up to Chaz, and by standing up to him, being with somebody who stood up to Chaz. I think she was amused by that.
Yeah,
because it's very possible that she was amused because Derek was saying that which she didn't have the courage to.
That's something I appreciated about this movie is a lot of like supporting characters and bystanders like actually being amused by the antics going on around them. Like that was one good example, and I also loved the
bar fight when everyone is fighting and Thornton's just like, what?
I was going to say when Thornton sends his secretary to class in his place to basically just be a stenographer, and she's got a transcription machine just taking down the lecture, and as the professor is that which is just Philip, right? Is berating her, and Jason is just sitting next to it, like trying not to laugh,
right? Which
is like pretty great because at that point he's kind of like not so much into his father's antics, but apparently that was just like too funny for him not.
I mean, that's a great scene.
Yeah.
And it's just it's pretty interesting, I mean, not to mention the scene at the diving tournament. You never see hecklers at a diving tournament. That is correct.
Yeah.
That is very true. You don't see that very often. And in real life, I find it amazing that he was not ejected from the audience.
Yeah, did he just not get caught? Like they couldn't prove who had the air horn? Or...
We'll tell you what. Don't look like what did I do when people start booing. It's very possible they didn't know it was you.
Right.
So I guess I'm in a hyper aware type of scenario where like you get kicked out of stadiums for anything nowadays.
Again, one should hope so, but if we want to kind of pass a judgment on the general level of law and order that pervades this movie. Do
you think that there was any arc whatsoever between Thornton and Diane?
Arc? Oh, sure. Not like a one that was sort of appropriate to the genre. Clearly, this is not like a full-on drama film or even a romance film, but I mean, I felt like it went through a couple of distinct stages at least.
I don't know if okay. So they said I love you too quickly. We cast our judgment. The kids did. We cast our judgment. I don't think I ever pinpointed it. So Jason was in love with her before this movie even started. He admitted as such.
Infatuated, at least, yeah.
Okay. And then her, I'm gonna
she was saying I love you too, right?
Yeah, and I can't really figure out when. I'm gonna say it happened off screen after their fight.
Like when they decided they loved each other? Or?
No, I think no. When he apologized, that was actually a really good apology.
Yeah,
that was a really good apology that he did.
I appreciate a good apology.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're welcome.
Yes. Woo. Okay, so I did that for them. I don't know if there was a love thing between Thornton and Diane. Yeah. I have no when.
I'm going to say, I mean, this is kind of a gimme, but I'm going to say if it had an emotional high point, it would be like during the oral examination.
Oh, sure.
When she sort of like rallies his courage and he recites the poem by the, I should be able to name the poet, but
Dylan Thomas.
Dylan Thomas? Yeah, sure. But yeah, the do not go gently into that good night and so on and so forth.
Is it gently?
Gentle?
Well, I remember,
yeah, I think you're right. Do not go gentle.
Well, for me, it's I only have Rodney Dangerfield quoting it as my understanding of that poem.
What about Independence Day?
I was about to say, you know what? I have not seen Dangerous Minds in a long time, so I don't know. Sorry, I was about to be defensive about a different movie.
Bill Pullman, he paraphrases it in the big speech.
No, I understand that, but
okay.
Paraphrasing is not quoting or reciting.
Yeah, he probably would just say gently, because, adverbs. And he's not Bob Dylan, so,
I do like afterwards. You passed all D's and an A.
Yeah, so about that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that thing about the academic misconduct and that like it probably wasn't an impartial party because like they had like full on slept together at that point, and yeah, it's good and like they're okay, so their whole like
Implied slept together.
Sure, yeah, we didn't see stuff happen on screen, but, or maybe it was just cut out of the version that we watched.
Also true. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, what makes that awkward at best ethically is that their romance was kind of like intertwined with her tutoring him and encouraging him and doing the things that a really dedicated professor would do and kind of, helping guide him toward, this isn't just like you're here to go through the motions of going to college to set a good example to your son, but actually like, no, the learning and engaging with the material and stimulating your mind, it can, change you as a person. And out of all of his academic interactions, she's the only one who's really conveying this to him, which is great. But, you can't really extricate that from the more personal relationship that's building with them. And I felt like toward the end there, like, she's very subjectively choosing whether he passes this exam based on his, explanation of how that poem makes him feel. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of stating the obvious here, or kind of like ragging on the movie for being unrealistic. But yeah, I just could not get through this without thinking like, oh, this is like kind of a case study in why, even though this sort of like nominally works out and is for the better, but it's still like not really impartial,
right?
To say nothing of the fact that, sorry, I'll let you talk in a minute, but just to be perfectly clear about what is happening in the plot here, he has cheated through all of his classes at this point. It started with the Kurt Vonnegut essay, and then he just like kind of marshaled his staff from his business to start doing all of his coursework. And the point of this oral examination is basically to prove that he didn't cheat, because only if he knew the material well enough to pass the exam could he have produced all that work in the first place, which is not true. And this is all like falsely proving his innocence by fooling them into thinking that he did the work in the first place because he crammed so hard to make up for lost time. So he's still getting away with something that should have gotten him expelled in the first place, which is like, okay, so he's this like lovable rogue, lovable trickster type. The audience is rooting for him, but still, it amused me how quickly that kind of got lost in the noise. It's like, oh, he passed his oral examination, he really did learn something, he's earning his degree fair and square. It's like, no, he just like skated on a completely justified accusation. Okay, I'm done. Diana, you go now.
No, it's perfectly fine. But when you were talking about like, just how awkward all of this, I'm just thinking like, well, yes. Fascinating question though, because I was thinking, no, this is icky because that's his professor. There's a power dynamic. Pause. Whoa. He is a very, very powerful donor to that college. What is the real power dynamic here?
I know. And the fact that he's benefiting so much from it, it really is like it's a crazy who's exploiting whom kind of.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
While simultaneously, the answer is no, because it's like somehow they cancel each other out. And the weird thing is that she's not exploiting him.
Yeah.
In a way that's blatant. Okay, I'm not going to say that. Okay. In a regular icky scenario.
Yeah, she's not taking
pressured.
advantage of her power over his grades in order to get some of that hot Rodney Dangerfield action,
And he is actually being he's being pushy, but weirdly like, okay, well, like that line he just like, okay, fine. Why don't you call me when you have no class? Just yeah,
it's a good one-liner.
It is a good.
And yeah, you're right. I mean, I feel like you're describing why this movie still works and kind of like
at least 1986 works.
Yeah, like it gives you these afterthoughts, like, wow, that was really irresponsible. When you're in the moment, it doesn't come across as like something blatantly untoward because it's not like he's romancing her and schmoozing her because he wants better grades or extra attention. He's doing it because he's attracted to her and he wants a romance and a relationship for its own sake. That much of it is very much on the level and it's very sweet, but
and he is,
even so, yeah, I mean, it still completely undermines her ability to be objective academically, but whatever. I already said my piece on that.
Yeah, of course. And we're not defending it, but it is one of those things like when you watch a heist movie and you're just like, that was wait a minute, this had to have lined up perfectly in order for that to have happened. There's no way in hell that would have like blah, 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 blah. So And in the end, like, I think I was confused because I thought he had graduated at the end instead of just giving the speech. But even the dean says, like, this is the first time a freshman has ever given this speech.
Yeah, that was a little weird. But I mean, again, okay, if we're gonna like sit here and nitpick every single contrivance, we're gonna.
Okay, this is what I'm gonna say. I have seen what happens when institutions, nonprofits, organizations receive a very, very large donation and they give that person VIP treatment. I'm sure, much like having his whole life having people look down on him because of, what one reason or another, it's just like, yeah, I'll make a speech. I think I'll make a speech. Yeah, thanks. Sure. It's just like, yeah, I'll take the stapler, my promotional stapler or whatever swag it is. This is like next level swag. That's just like, he does not need this.
Sure. I mean,
or he probably just said, hey, it'd be cool to make a speech. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything that wrong with it. Again, at least in the moment, as opposed to like sort of the afterthoughts. But yeah, okay. So he's a wealthy donor, and that's probably how he got into this. But also he's an influential social figure and kind of a local celebrity because he's this business magnate, and he's sort of like a notable story of enrolling as a freshman at his age. So yeah, sure, why not invite him to give a speech if he feels like it. But okay, and forgive me while I geek out even harder here. I'm going deep on the nitpicking, but why not? The thing he was dressed in, that like gown with the different kind of hat and stuff, which is like traditionally symbolic of like faculty members and people who've graduated in a certain thing. I was just looking at that, and I don't know why I was thinking like, why couldn't he just like be dressed in the rank and file academic robe that is supposed to go for like a student or like an undergraduate? Like he could, because like the graduation regalia goes back to like what would have just traditionally been like a college uniform, and like, they move the tassel from one side to the other. I forget which side is which, and and that just shows like you're no longer an undergraduate, you're a graduate, and he could just be there in his like undergraduate regalia with the tassel on the one side, and he doesn't move because he hasn't graduated yet. But dressing him up in a faculty regalia get up is just like, no one would have thought of that. I don't even know why I'm saying it. I just know that
anyone who is listening that knows how academia works, I want to know how those honorary doctorates work.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like that's like even more so than like someone giving a speech, because that is basically just like a doctorate for money that people understand isn't real.
Maybe money, but also maybe like prestige, like your career and the fact that you have been a speaker on behalf of us. Please be an honorary doctor.
Oh, what if they gave Thornton an honorary doctorate?
Well,
before he gave the speech.
I mean, he was still a freshman.
Yeah, that's why it's only an honorary one. He gets the honorary doctorate at the end of the first year, and then a real bachelor's degree 3 years later.
So going back to that, when you said what side of the tassel, left to right.
Left to right, sure.
It's left to right.
Makes sense.
Because I learned that because I used to work where.
We
would take
the graduation photos.
The graduation photos.
Class photos, yeah.
And I would always go, graduated, not graduated. Graduated, not... Again, visual podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, so...
Well, all I know is I read in the pamphlet of the graduation that I'm entitled to wear the gown and stuff as a graduate, and I keep it in my closet for when I visit the campus, and people will know that I'm an alumnus because I'm wearing the uniform. It's called tradition, damn it.
I had to give mine back. They only rented them out.
Yeah, I think I bought mine.
Okay.
I'm not sure I had an option to rent, actually.
Ooh, fancy. What are you, Philip now? Okay, important question.
Yes.
What happens next?
Well, hopefully an ethics board review, and...
that will go just as well as, I'm going to ask you one time. I'm not going to lie to you, Dean Martin.
Dean Martin.
So after the ethics review that will not happens. What happens next?
Can we talk about Jason and Valerie first? Because I feel like that's a bit more of a softball.
Sure.
I'm gonna say I give it 4 months and then a semi-messy breakup.
Okay.
Oh wait, shoot! Do we see them together at the graduation speech?
Yes.
Oh god, that means they last at least a year. Okay, I'm gonna give it 13 months and then a semi-messy breakup.
Okay.
What do you think?
Who's going to initiate the breakup?
Oh, it's got to be Valerie.
I was supposed to. It's going to be Valerie. Yeah. I think it's going to. They'll get through graduation and then drift.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the thing because Jason's going to go through some sort of existential postgraduate crisis.
Yeah.
And she's going to just do things. She's going to find a job and do things.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
Yeah, she should.
I have no idea. Okay, fine. I will do this. So that costume that she wore to that costume party where they were dressed up like cave people.
Right.
I'm going to say that she gets into paleontology and archaeology. Because interesting.
Was that like a foundational experience for her?
Yes. I don't know. There's not much to work with, and that's exactly how we like it. Yeah, she's gonna work in a museum. And Jason's gonna go into business with his dad.
Yeah, I see Jason being happy in that.
Yeah,
and I like the museum. Yeah, she seems to have the personality for dealing with the public and such. She's I don't want to say bubbly, but
no, I can see that. But I wasn't getting like working with the public. I was thinking like, do you remember the non-evil Kristen Wiig version of her character in Wonder Woman 1984?
Yes.
So imagine that, but
I'm trying to say, was she like a curator or just like in charge of
an exhibit,
in charge of the holdings of the museum?
I'm gonna say she's that not evil and
spoiler alert.
And also, so imagine if Wonder Woman and Kristen Wiig's character were the same person. So basically, she's Wonder Woman.
This podcast is kind of a tall order for people who haven't seen every movie that we talk about.
Don't see Wonder Woman 1984.
I thought it was okay. Yeah.
No.
It had its weaknesses.
Parts were good. Other parts, not as much. Okay. Thornton.
So Diane and Thornton. Okay.
Who's he, Steve? Yes.
No one is gonna.
The right people will.
Hi, Izzy.
Okay. Thornton and Diane.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. Yeah. We've established it'll be an inquiry from the ethics board that goes nowhere, and because that's just the universe that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Also in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I do find this a very interesting question because Thornton has two marriages behind him, widowed by one and then divorced and getting on in years. And yeah, Diane is maybe like a solid decade younger than him at least.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think you can.
I will look at the actors.
Go by the actors' ages,
but characters wise, I don't necessarily see it. But go on.
Yeah, so Thornton, despite having the playboy persona, is definitely at an age where if he gets a chance to settle down with someone who has her kind of she's like youthful and vivacious, and he's probably only going to get so many of those opportunities in a really stable relationship. So I definitely see him wanting to hold on to her. Besides the emotional bond that kind of formed between them, which didn't seem that stable, but we'll see.
16-year age difference between the actors. Also,
16 years. Okay.
Also, he is passed, so also uncomfortable.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. He was very much in love with his first wife. And she passed away.
Yeah, Jason's mother.
Yeah, and he talks about it, just very open about it. The second, he even said that I was just lonely. His second wife.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes me wonder how much of this Playboy flirting business is kind of compensating for that too.
Absolutely, 100% compensating for it. Especially with being surrounded by all of these young college age girls and stuff like that. He's just he likes the attention, but I don't think he would ever do anything. If it ever got to the next level.
I think it'd be reasonably gentlemanly about it, right? Take advantage.
Gentlemanly, he's a big talker.
Yes.
But that's it.
Yeah.
Kind of like with college, just like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Like a relationship is like, oh.
Okay, so we're establishing that pulling that shower curtain open is the maximum level of sleaze of which that man is capable. It doesn't...
That and bribing his way into college.
And the bribery, yes.
All the bribery.
And academic misconduct. But, okay, so I feel like we've got a solid argument that he is going to want to get married. And then the big question is, would Diane feel that way?
I don't think... So here's the thing is that I can see them having a lot of fun together. She's after the fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, I foresee a long relationship without marriage.
Yeah, if it stays. I mean, like, because he doesn't live there. She teaches there. They're in two different places, literally. He said, what?
Doesn't live there? Doesn't he live in the dorm?
I mean, yes, he lives in the dorm.
His comically oversized dorm that he had custom construction on.
Yeah, I know that. He's going to have to... Actually, you know what? I was about to say, he's going to have to get back to the business eventually. No, he doesn't. Jason can take over and he can retire.
That's true.
Yeah.
Plus, the business pretty much runs itself. You know, he kind of like flits off to college and leaves everything behind.
Right.
We saw his like, you know, huge boardroom with like all the people. So I kind of get the sense that he can check out of the business and there will be lots of people to run it for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see him retiring up north.
Yeah.
I assume it's north.
Yeah.
I don't know where this place is. Yeah,
it's, say they stay together and never get married.
Well, I don't know if they stay together though. Do you think she'll ever tire of his antics, or do you think being with him will mellow out the antics?
Yeah, I can definitely see him mellowing out, especially since he has, you know, gotten a few harsh lessons about, you know, getting himself into trouble with, you know, taking shortcuts through life. Mm-hmm. I kind of have to wonder, like, and clearly this is something I don't have a lot of real world experience in, but like, at what point does the age difference kind of rear its head? And because, like, you know, when pulling numbers out of a hat here, but like when he's 70 and she's 54, is that still, you know, comfortable for both parties? Or
I mean, there's precedent. There's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, love can make anything work, but like with, you know, what's the likelihood, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I foresee a lot of vitality from him based off of bouncing off of her.
He is deceptively athletic.
That is true. That is very true. Yeah. Excellent point.
Thank you.
We're talking characters, not the actors. So yes and yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I see them traveling.
Oh yeah,
like off season. Off season, is that how you talk about when you're not in classes?
Isn't that what he said? A free trip to Hawaii, off season.
Off season. He doesn't have to do off season. When school is out, I see traveling. I see lots of.
Yeah, because she would want to, and he could afford it, right? Mm-hmm. And she wants to have fun.
She does want to have fun.
Yeah,
but he'll ask her like, what kind of fun. I think he'll be respectful of that.
I think we've got a kind of a solid thesis here. B+.
Sure enough. Okay, that works.
All right.
Cool. We passed.
Yay. C's get degrees. That was my motto.
A, B, C are in the top 3.
I love that. Yeah,
that's a good line.
Yeah, I was not a very good student.
Oh, for crap's sake!
A lot of people wouldn't guess that about me. But.
Oh, for crap's sake! Okay, well, that was back to school.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me watch this movie. This was kind of like toward the back of my list where like every time I was reminded of this, like, oh, this kind of seems like the kind of thing I would enjoy, especially considering I have a pretty low threshold for comedies, and this was always like sort of the... like it had a reputation as being sort of a middle of the pack kind of comedy, and usually I'm like easy to please with those. So,
yeah. Well, interestingly enough, 86% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I think it deserves it.
Or maybe that was the year it came out. It was in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a full notch below an all-time classic like, you know, Caddyshack or Ghostbusters or, you know, just staying within the 80s. But still, very solid.
Cool. Yeah. I'm glad. Unfortunately, the other Rodney Dangerfield movie that I watched a lot when I was younger, Ladybugs, that one's... That
does not seem as good. I've not seen it, but...
Also, the academic misconduct is a step up.
Okay.
Anyways.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so if you have any thoughts about back to school, let us know. I'm definitely monitoring the inbox. So if you want to reach out, contact at HEAMCast.com. You can definitely send your thoughts there because I'm not doing too much on social media, but I am at HEAMCast on Twitter and Instagram and Happily Ever Aftermath on Facebook. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you.
Alrighty. So until next time, may your aftermath be happy.